Welcome to Elevate, the masterclass where we dissect the elements of exceptional achievement and lifestyle design with a focus on personal growth and real estate investing. Now, here's your host, Tyler Chesser.
Elevate Nation, welcome back. This is Tyler Chesser. I'm so thankful to have you here, and I'm so blessed and grateful to be sitting with my friend Ryan Gibson. Ryan, how are you, sir?
Good. How you doing, Tyler? Thanks for having me.
Hey, I'm doing fantastic. It's a Friday afternoon. We're having a fun discussion, and I have no doubt it's going to be an amazing time together. So thanks again for spending some time with me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. Well, I want to welcome Elevate Nation back because it's time to take it to another level. And I want to welcome you back because our mission is to identify and apply how the best of the best raise the bar personally and professionally to achieve greatness in real estate and beyond. And this is the show we're going to dive into that mindset. We're going to dive into the habits, the routines, the systems, tools, strategies, and so much more from those who are elevating to a life without limits so you can do the same for yourself. And I want to remind you that this is a masterclass for leaders and those looking to achieve uncommon results and purposeful outcomes through real estate investing and ultimately in their lives. And in terms of a little bit of a housekeeping here, if you're enjoying this show, please hit that subscribe button. Share this with a friend, give us a rating, a review, give us some specifics on what are you implementing in your own life, in your own real estate business to elevate to a life without limits. And so we certainly would be super grateful for that. But while we're here, I want to dive in. I want to introduce you to Ryan Gibson, who is the Chief Investment Officer and the co-founder of Spartan Investment Group. He has organized over $21 million of private equity for Spartan's projects. Ryan has experience managing development of Spartan Investment Group's projects in challenging markets. For Spartan Investment Group, Ryan is responsible for investor relations and capital raises for projects, and he's also a highly experienced commercial airline pilot. Ryan graduated from Mercyhurst University with a bachelor's degree in business with concentrations in marketing, management, and advertising. And Ryan, I know that this is really only scratching the surface of who you are as a professional and obviously as a man. So I'd love to know, who is Ryan Gibson, the man behind the bio?
Thanks, Tyler. Yeah. So I am the person who's had like 25 jobs, pushing the lawnmower around my neighborhood when I was 9 years old, to knock on people's doors, to get $10 to cut the grass. I have been pretty much working is my fuel. And, when I do, the more that I do, the more energized I get, the more people I talk to, the more energized I get. And, and the more I can help other people, really helps me thrive as well and feel a sense of accomplishment. So, my history has been littered with, coaching gigs, mentoring, helping other people, get what they want. And, just working really, really hard.
So working is your fuel. So was it always that way? I mean, because most people, like most kids growing up, they're like, yeah, I don't know, let's play some video games. Let's hang out. I mean, was that ever you?
I definitely like to do that. But I'm just way more interested in just getting out there and getting after it, making money. Over the years, I've just found that, it's really not about the money for me. It's just about the pursuit and the hunt to get to, what I want. It's getting, building a big project or building a company, or just kind of helping myself be more influenced by surrounding myself with better people. Right now, as a snapshot in life, my focus is not on deals. It's not on the next transaction or making the next dollars. It's just finding the best people I can surround myself with, and just focusing on high quality relationships, because, my entry to the business and real estate was littered with disasters. And that pretty much was attested to just working with the wrong people, and really just wanting to do a deal and working with bad people. And I think the reason why we've been able to grow so much in the last, year or so is because we've just focused on people, and we focused on our team. So it's been really helpful.
Well, I want to come back to the fact that you mentioned that your entrance into real estate was littered with disasters, because I know many can relate to that, and many, have had challenges as they come up throughout the real estate business, and just building a business in general. It can be extremely challenging, and many different landmines, throughout the way. But I want to come back to that. But before we do that, I want to make sure that we kind of dive into this, working as my fuel thing, and how it energizes you so much.
Yeah.
Could you look back to a time and say, hey, as a kid, there was a moment where I identified this entrepreneurial spirit? And if so, what was that? And then what kind of, how did that feel as a child? I mean, was it a discovery process for you?
Yeah, sixth grade. Actually, I think it was fourth grade. There was a parent of one of the teachers, or a parent of one of the kids I was in class with, who came in, and he talked about how to set goals. And he's like, this is, you have this vision, you have this objective, and, this is what you want. And you make it measurable, achievable, obtainable, all that. Right.
I thought you said miserable for a second.
Oh, measurable. Yeah. And so, the teacher had us write down what our goals were, and it was cool. There was like short-term goals, mid-term, and like long-term goals. And I'll never forget writing down, I really wanted to get into Orchard Lake St. Mary's, which is the high school I went to, which, required an entrance exam and, some testing, which I did just fine on. It ultimately wasn't a big deal. But my midterm goal was to buy a go-kart. That was just something that, we didn't have a lot of money growing up, and I really wanted to have this go-kart. It's what I wanted to do in the summer, right? I love driving things. I love cars and, flying airplanes, things like that. So I was like, okay, go-kart's $600. How do I get the money? Right. And so that night I went home to my room, and I like gathered up all my toys, and I'm like, all right, I can get like $100 for all these toys,
To start.
And if I had eBay or the internet at the time, I probably would have figured that out pretty quickly, like the Gary Vanderchuk, like, buy a bunch of Hot Wheels at a garage sale, right? And resell them. I mean, it was just so intuitive to me to just put all my focus on just accomplishing my goals. And so the pursuit and the work was just, it wasn't work to me. It was just like, hey, I'm going to buy this stinking go-kart, and it's going to be so rewarding when I get it. So I started cutting grass, and then, it was just easy. And, I think, one thing that people really liked was, I'd go knock on the door, and I'm like this like fifth grader, and I'm like, hey, can I cut your grass for $10? I mean, if that happened to me today, I'd be like, hell yeah, you can. I mean,
yeah,
seeing a kid with that kind of motivation, was so inspiring for other people. And I would tell them, hey, my goal is to buy this thing. And they would just be like even more excited about helping me. I know this is kind of a funny story, because like when I was a little kid, but
I love it.
And, when I was in high school, I really wanted to be an airline pilot. And so, I found this job selling Cutco knives. I know it's kind of a goofy thing, but vector marketing, trained you how to do a sales presentation, and you just had to do a sales presentation. You get $14.50, and it didn't matter if you sold or didn't sell, right? You just present the product, and you set the appointment, and you're going to get paid no matter what. So with that kind of framework in mind, it was like, this is going to be great. So it taught me how to build rapport with people. And remembering my experience with cutting grass and showing people, sharing my goals with people, and that really helping them kind of be inspired and inspire me. I had a prospectus that I opened, and I said, this is my goal. My dream is to be an airline pilot. And, with you having me over to your house to show you this knife presentation, it's helping me get to that. That would just, there was so much cool alignment with that. So that summer, I don't know, I sold like 6 figures or something like that of knives, and paid for all my flight training with cash. And so, I mean, it just was so, people could hear my passion, and they could go, okay, this is amazing. Like, I want to refer this kid to like all these different people. And so that's how I kept my appointments going all summer. There was a week where I did 9 appointments a day. And my, I have to credit my supervisor. He knew how to inspire me. He sat me down. He said, hey, what do you want? If you could sell $10,000 in a week, what would help you be like the shining star for that? And there was this goofy GPS system that I wanted to buy that was like $1,000. And so I said, I really want that. He goes, okay, I'll buy that for you if you sell $10,000, dollars worth of knives this week. And so I think just having goals is so important, and really, people talk about vision boards. I guess it was like the modern vision board at the time. Where do you want to be? And then what do you want out of life? And, financial, personal, whatever it might be. If it's, obtaining enough money to pay for pilot training to be an airline pilot, or if it's $600 to buy a go-kart so you can like have a blast in the summertime, whatever gets you excited. I think you should set that goal, and then it's just effortless to get there. And then just, I think the tweak to that in today's world is, leveraging a business to help you get there. And so I kind of view, Spartan Investment Group as a business more than I'm out there trying to find my next property or my next deal. And so that's really been helpful, kind of bringing to today, and then putting the right people in place to do that. That's been kind of our main objective. So
are you someone who's seriously looking to elevate your life, your business, your real estate portfolio, your cash flow, your deal opportunities, your access to opportunities, your network this year? Well, if that's you, then I invite you to visit coachwithtyler.com, because I'm currently opening up a few coaching spots for people like you who want to close the gap from where you are to where you want to be, and really, expand that beyond your wildest dreams and explode your business, explode your deal opportunities, explode your vision for what you're looking to create. If that's you, I invite you to visit coachwithtyler.com. I really have to tell you that this is not for everyone. This is only for those who are decisive. They're committed. They're willing to do whatever it takes. They're willing to invest time, energy, and resources into themselves to get to where they want to be and to live a life without limits, to elevate to a life without limits, which is really what we're all about on this show. If that is you, again, I invite you to visit coachwithtyler.com. Again, that's coachwithtyler.com. Yeah, I mean, anything you do in business or in real estate, or as a kid trying to get a go-kart, it's what's the vehicle to get me to the outcome,
Yeah.
and it's what's the strategy, what's the pursuit, what's the commitment on a consistent basis to get there, and focusing on that outcome is so huge. And I ask that question because it's like, I always want to remind myself and others, it's like, where did this creativity come from? You start to get creative and create these vehicles because you want an outcome, and then as you grow older, it's like, well, I've got a goal to have a certain amount of passive income in my life, and, real estate seems interesting to me. And so, you remind yourself of, hey, I was in 6th grade and I what did I do to get that, to get that go-kart? I just find it to be so fascinating. And, I'd love to, kind of fast forward to today. And I want to talk about the disasters as you kind of walk through in real estate.
Right.
But, tell me about that. Also, I want to know, transitioning, it sounds like from a commercial airline pilot into real estate as well. What was the thought process there first?
Yeah. So the transition, I still fly very part-time. But the transition was, I'll never forget, I accomplished my goal of being an airline pilot, and I'll never forget the first layovers in White Plains, New York. And, we land and we get on the crew van and we go to the hotel and we get to the room, and I sit down and I go, and the room was real quiet. And I'm like, okay, so now what do I do for the next 16 hours? I'm like, man, I want to be making money. How do I turn this like layover into a, revenue generating business? Of course I have to sleep and exercise and go out with the crew and, get dinner and stuff. But, how do I like take advantage of this downtime? So my mind just started racing with, I could start a business, I could do real estate, I could, be a consultant. So I was a consultant for a few years. For the FAA as a, kind of a contractor. So I spent a lot of my downtime over the, in the hotels, working on consulting reports and things like that. But really, I read Cash Flow Quadrant, on a layover, and I'm sure everybody read that. It's like, I was thinking, wow, I've been an employee. This consulting thing is self-employment. I'm straight up just exchanging my time for my money. I have to put in an hour of consulting to get an hour of pay, right? And that's not where I want to be. I want to be on the I quadrant where I'm an investor, or I want to be on the B where I'm a business owner. And so, got me in the mindset of like, okay, I have to sunset this consulting. I have to build a business, because the tweak to, getting the $600 to buy the go-kart, if I could go back in time and tell my 6th grade-year-old self what to do, I would say, don't cut all these don't cut the lawns, go get all your friends to work for you, because they all want to cut grass. You do the business development. You go knock on all the doors, right? You go take a line of credit and buy a bunch of lawnmowers, and, that's what you should be doing. And you should be, building the company and taking it to the next level. That's what Spartan has done for us is, we're a almost 25-person company now. And it's, how do we get the right people working for us and, leverage, a team to really get into the B quadrant of cash flow quadrant. Right. And, I haven't really become that much of a passive investor yet. I have invested in 7 different syndications outside of my company. But that's kind of the idea, right? Is to, eventually, sell the business or build a huge business and then become passive. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, I know that the whole concept of the cash flow quadrant is such a punch in the gut when you're on the wrong side of that quadrant. I know it was for me. And, as I continue to study, the work of Robert Kiyosaki, you start to learn, well, this is a process. So don't get too down on yourself as you kind of go through this process. But, creating those vehicles. But tell me about, as you started creating that transition from an employee and a consultant, maybe self-employed to a certain degree, then to a business owner and investor. Talk to me about how it was littered with disasters and how did you handle that?
Yeah. So, there was never any financial disasters, thank God. And I think I really, attribute that to a good person that I work with. And that's the co-founder of Spartan, Scott Lewis. He had a great mindset that, hey, we have really good full-time jobs. We don't need to just jump into any deal and do any deal that doesn't make sense. Because usually when you lose money in real estate, 2 things happens. You buy a bad deal. So the deal's, failed from the financial numbers. And then the other part of it is you operate it incorrectly. So if you're new, you're going to make mistakes. So your pro forma is garbage. Just throw it in the trash. Even the best developers and the most experienced people are going to make mistakes.
Wait a minute. So the chief investment officer is telling me the pro forma is garbage? This must be true. Oh my gosh. All right. Okay.
Yep. The pro forma is just that. It's just a pro forma, right? So
it's a guess.
It's a guess. Yep. And you're pretty much assured to never hit it. And if you do hit it, you're lucky. We've always exceeded them typically. There's a couple times where we haven't. We've fallen a little bit short, but people still made money. But generally, we always exceed them. But different things happen. The project costs more, but then you earn more. The project is supposed to take 12 months and it takes 24 months. But the time difference is made up through higher revenue earned from the project. There's always something that happens. It doesn't mean it just because you don't hit a pro forma doesn't make it worse. But the transition was, hiring the wrong contractor. It was, making mistakes along the way. It was not having good contracts with people. It was partnering with the wrong people, frankly. It wasn't raising money fast enough. If I would have known about capital raising right from the start, I would have never kind of gone the path that we did. I would have raised money sooner in the business relationship and done more deals. So, there's a lot of different, but we had projects catch on fire. We had projects flood. We had, we had projects take longer than they were expected. We had red tape projects, but I wouldn't trade any of those mistakes for anything. I mean, those mistakes are what make me and make our team incredibly more savvy going into more deals. Imagine, we did $1 million deal that we made a bunch of mistakes on a condo project, and it was a very strong ground up development condo construction project. I probably made every mistake you could make, but I'm really glad I did because it was only $1 million and we ended up making a bunch of money, right? And now we're doing a $12 million project. We have 2 $12 million ground up construction projects, and I am way better off by having made a ton of mistakes on $1 million project before I, go off and do a good project. I was just talking to my business partner the other day about this, and he's like, the three principals at Spartan, Scott Lewis, Ben Lapidus, and myself, we all come from a mistake-ridden real estate background. And I think that's what we love about working with each other is everybody's made all these mistakes. So when we get together as a team, our due diligence is impressive because we all know that we know this can go really bad. And how it can
worst case scenario. Yeah.
Exactly. So, we've turned down a lot of deals, and we've really retraded a lot of deals when we're buying a project on price or on terms or on extensions or whatever, because we know that, hey, no, that is a big deal. You need to like figure out what that easement really means, or you need to get that number or that study or that inspection, because if you don't, this is the disaster that happened to me. I've already made that mistake. I don't need to make it again. So that's actually produced about a 680 point due diligence checklist that we have for every single deal. And it grows by 50 to 100 lines every single time we do another project because we learn more stuff. Mm-hmm. So, I think if you do a deal and you make a bunch of money and everything goes pretty well, you're lucky, A, and B, you didn't learn anything. So
maybe you're not lucky because of the
yeah,
learning, right?
There you go. Yeah. Good point. You're probably not lucky because you didn't learn enough to know what really can go badly. And you just never want to use hubris when you're dealing with real estate, because if it can go wrong, it will. Mm-hmm. And you have to just be prepared for it.
Yeah, and it almost seems like a little bit of a rite of passage, so to speak, to go through the pain of mistakes and disasters. I know that I've felt those same disasters as well, and maybe not the exact same, but in a different way. And I think it goes back to, if you're going to take action, there's going to be challenges on that path, right? And you have to expect it, and you just say, all right, well, how do we face the brutal facts, so to speak? It's like, let's not hide, let's not put our head in the sand. Let's just face it, confront it, and overcome it, and then create mechanisms that can then cause us to succeed in the future, such as developing a 680 point due diligence checklist or whatever that may be. I just find it so interesting. And also you learn those lessons so much more when they actually hit your pocketbook and when they hit you financially or your partners or whatever it may be, rather than reading it in a book. So you want to take action, but I do think there's a lot of value also in taking action, perhaps on a smaller scale as you grow, so it's not, something that's going to put you out of the game. Would you agree with that, Ryan?
Absolutely. I agree with that. And, one disaster that I wanted to highlight was our first purchase of a commercial cash flowing asset. The bank pulled the loan on us. They were going to give us a loan. They pulled the loan on us 3 days before we were supposed to close. And, but I'll tell you what, that was a disaster, right? We had earnest money. We had inspections that we paid for. We had all kinds of things going into that. And you could sit there and say, oh, boo-hoo or whatever. But you know what it taught us? It taught us how to raise money on a private debt note. So what we did was we went back to our investor network. We put together a fractionalized deed of trust, and we put together private debt. So we actually raised our own bank loan, for that asset, and we saved the deal. Now, we just closed another deal where we had a project under contract that it was too small for a portfolio, and we wholesaled it to another storage operator, made a nice little profit on the spread. And that buyer didn't have financing lined up in time. So we said, hey, we'll give you a bridge loan for the time that you need to get the property refinanced. We closed that transactions because we learned from that problem that happened to us, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what I love about this business. Every single day, it's something else. It doesn't even faze me. I mean, we had 4 RVs catch on fire last week. We found somebody living in a storage unit. We had we've had. You
don't live in a storage unit? I live in one. Wait a minute. I'm not supposed to live in the Spartan investor, storage unit there?
Please do not do that. No. So, there's something, every day the bank changes their terms, the occupancy decreases, there's delays. And so I think that's what I like about it so much is like, building a team that is capable of handling all those problems as they come up, and it just becoming like a way of life, how to deal with your problems. There was someone at the Best Ever conference that told me, he goes, "How you doing this morning?" And I said, "Good." He goes, "Good, because it only gets worse from here on out."
Oh my God.
When you wake up in the morning, everything has to be really, really good, because the rest of the day, it only can get worse. So if you wake up and you have a crappy attitude, you might as well change it, because it's only going to get worse. And I was like, okay, okay, all right. So when you wake up in the morning, it's like, hey, be happy, because it's like you said, you're going to check your email and something's going to happen. You're going to get a phone call, something's going to happen, right? Anyway.
I mean, that's why I think it's so important to cultivate the appropriate mindset as an investor, because it can be so challenging and there's so many things to anticipate. There's so many, unexpecteds to expect, so to speak, but at the same time, to realize that there's a solution for everything. You can be resourceful and you can actually solve every challenge if you're resourceful enough. But at the same time, I mean, I don't know if I totally agree with the thought of, hey, everything's worse from here on out every single day. I don't know if I'd like to wake up.
Well, it's one way of looking at it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. How do you frame that, right? It's like, you've got to start from the right perspective to realize that, you know what, hey, it's great. Everything's fine. We have a solution for everything. But here we go. Like, let's go into the gauntlet, right? I mean, how did you take that advice? What did you see from that?
That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, what I took away was, when you wake up, don't like, get some positivity going on, get in the mindset of like, okay, how am I going to tackle challenges, and, start from a good place, so don't start from in the dumps, that's just no way to start your day. That's kind of what I took from it.
It's interesting, because you have to be conscious about that. As you wake up in the morning, it's like, you haven't had a drink of water in 8 hours, and you're hunched over and your breath is low. So your body is telling you all these negative things, right? And your mind is saying, man, today's going to suck, or whatever it may be. So how do you handle that? I mean, is that just something that you have developed a habit towards, being resourceful and mindful about that?
Yeah, I feel like if I get up really early in the morning, I usually try to get up between 4:30 and 5:30. I can better tackle the day and be ready to sort of accept the people in my life that are in my life, particularly my kids. I like getting up really early, because I can get some stuff done. I can get my coffee. I can answer a bunch of emails. I use a productivity tool called Boomerang, which delays emails. So I'm not like emailing people at 4:00 in the morning and thinking I'm, crazy. Plus, I don't want people responding, I just kind of want to deal with what I want to deal with. Right.
For sure.
Yeah, Boomerang also lets you pause your inbox, which is really, really great for the distracted mindset, which is me.
Yeah, all of us are.
Yeah, exactly. So I like to just get my inbox cleaned out. I like to, kind of eat breakfast, and then, I like to be sort of showered, ready to go for when my daughter wakes up and my family wakes up, because, it allows me just to be a little bit better. I don't know, just happier, and then they get off to school or whatever. And then, then I'm sort of like ready for the hits to come, I've had some happiness. I've got some stuff done. I've been productive. And then, okay, all right, what do you got for me today, world? Okay, fire at a property, had to, hire a new employee or whatever it is, it just makes the day go by a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as corny and as kind of somewhat feeling mainstream as it is now, it's like, if you win the morning, you can win the day, right? And if you can win the week, you can win the month. If it's like this momentum thing. And I'm totally like you. It's like, if I can get up early in the morning and I can, work on myself a little bit, everything else kind of works out. And I'm more resourceful as an investor and as a connector or whatever I'm, looking to accomplish that day. I don't know about you, but it sounds like you're in that boat as well.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
I love it. So we're talking about personal growth. So talk to me about, what other sort of investments do you make in yourself that you feel has set you apart?
I try to do one day a week, just something for me. I'm in a men's basketball league. That's like the most fun I have all week with my, awesome. My other friends. Yeah. It's Tuesday night. It's just, kind of cut loose. I like that. Where I'm not afraid of reading, try to read a book every month, usually on Audible. I want to up that. I want to do more of that. I listen to what my teammates have to say. We actually have a sync call every week, and every team member is tasked with reading a book. Every week is somebody else has to have a book that they kind of brief on, which I think is really cool because it kind of puts you on the hook to read something. And then, we rotate, but you have to brief out the kind of the high notes of the book and create a discussion and deliberation. So our team kind of works together to help each other out. We also do gratefuls on our sync calls every week. So we always start the call with people going around the room, and not everybody has to say something, but it gives the opportunity to say, hey, I'm really grateful for this person for helping me get this task done. Our mission at our company is to improve lives through real estate. So we always have a, how have you completed the mission question at the beginning of our calls. And we say, I helped this person buy their first house, or I helped this investor set up a retirement account, or whatever it was to help them improve their life. So I think that's really helpful in growing and getting, better, because you're just getting in a mindset and a framework to like, hey, how am I going to carry the mission out for the business this week and for the company? And how am I going to, maybe be that person that someone says, hey, I'm really grateful to Ryan because he did something for me on the call, right? You're trying to make the board, so to speak. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love systematizing like the accountability around not only personal growth, but professional achievement when it's, asking the question of how are you supporting the mission today, or how have you supported it recently? And I know that's not exactly the way that you phrased it, but then also,
no, yeah.
And also just thinking about, hey, what are we grateful for, whether it's a team member or whatever it may be, and then strategizing and implementing sort of an ongoing system of, hey, what are you reading? What are you learning? And how can you share that with others, not only in your team, but otherwise. So it's like, what systems can you build in your life that are a consistent way for you to engage with others, whether you're professionally on their team or otherwise? And I don't know, I have a lot of ideas now on this, so I appreciate you sharing that. So talk to me
no problem.
Through this process. I mean, as you've continued to grow as an investor and just as a professional and as a human being in general, I mean, has there been anything recently that you've learned that you've really changed your mind about drastically? Or I don't know, it's a risky question to ask, but I'm just curious.
No. So, it's interesting. I always get the question, why do you raise money from other people? Don't you think you're going to have enough money of your own to just do these deals by yourself?
Mm-hmm.
I've never really had a good philosophy on answering that question, other than just our first 3 projects we did with our own money, and we ran out. Not in a bad way, but we just had all our money out on deals. And then the 4th deal came, and it was like, how do I raise money for this 4th deal?
Mm-hmm.
It's a really good deal. I really want to do it. Oh, I can raise money from other people. And, the philosophy that somebody told me was, imagine you have $1 million in your bank account and you could do a deal for $1 million and it would make you $1 million. Well, your cash on cash return on that is 100%, right? And you take on all the risk and you get all the reward and all the profit. But let's say you went to a investor and said, hey, would you invest $1 million in this project? And I'll give you 20%. The investor goes, wow, sounds like a good deal, right? They give $1 million. You get 800,000. They get 200,000, right? And you still have $1 million in your bank to play with. And that $1 million in your bank, you're going to go hire a staff. You're going to go set up an office. You're going to go set up systems. And now instead of doing that one deal, you're going to do 20 deals. And they're all going to make $1 million. And now you're going to have $20 million that you need to raise in capital. And then you're going to make 20 times 800,000 versus doing that one deal all by yourself. So I really think that, probably in the last 12 months, I've really learned the power of partnerships. Partnerships build wealth. And that is how you get where you need to go. And I think everybody's operating out there in the mindset that I just want to be a lone wolf. I want to do this on my own. I want to, I don't need investors. I'm whatever. And, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think it's they're missing out on an opportunity to make a lot more money and build a bigger mousetrap. And, I always turn that question back on people and say, well, why is Amazon raising money from shareholders? Answer that question, or investors, answer that question, and you'll come up with the same answer that I just get, that I'm going to give. Right. So, that's been kind of a big thing that I've really kind of focused in on. And that has helped, kind of open my mind to, taking it a step further, and the profits that you earn from the deal, don't take them for your personal life. You put them back in your company, and you build out your ops team better. You build out your construction project management team better. You build out your systems better, right? And you continue to grow a business that can do more with the profits that it earns, right? And I know that's a very rudimentary way of looking at it, but it's just been I've not only conceptualized that, but now I've seen it be successful in the last 12 months.
So you were not always of that mindset. You were always, you used to be,
guy.
It sounds like. Okay.
Yeah, as a deal guy, and just kind of, embarrassed that I'm raising capital for a deal, and it's like, no, this is just what every business does in America. This is what, Regulation D, in the Security Exchange Act of 1933 helped, the United States and small business grow. This is just normal. And that's, I think that's really helped.
Yeah. And one of the sound bites there is that partnerships build wealth. I thought that was, great and super, super wise to say. How would you suggest that those who maybe have been a lone wolf in their real estate investing career thus far, and they've experienced some success, but they, maybe they're starting to come around to this thought, and maybe they're starting to change their mind on the money raising side of things. What would you say to them as far as finding and locating the appropriate partner or the appropriate partners?
Yeah. So, I mean, from an do you think from more of an investor side, or do you think more of like a business partner side?
I think either way. I think maybe we'll talk to the active investors as well as the passive investors. So
I would listen in both cases. I would ask questions and listen to what the person says. So I always like to ask open-ended questions to hear what that person is interested in, to see if it's a good fit for what you're trying to accomplish. So if you go to somebody and you say, hey, what's your investment goals? What do you want to get out of life? Right. Really, really open-ended question.
Yeah.
If they say, hey, I want to just take my money and invest it, and I want to get a return. Well, that person might be great for passive investing. If they say, hey, I want to build a business and have company and have employees and systems and processes, and I want to do this and, really grow into something large, you might have a good, a business partner. But really, I think I look for two things. I look for grit, and I look for values driven, people. Mm-hmm. I need somebody who wants it, as bad as I do, somebody who, is going to, interrupt their vacation, interrupt their life, put this as a priority. And that's the type of person that I want to partner with. Somebody who's not afraid to work through the night, someone who's not afraid to, put their best effort forward and do it with an immense amount of integrity. I always used to say integrity is what you do when nobody's looking, mm-hmm. Right? Doing the right thing when no one's looking. And those are the type of people I want to be surrounded by. And the people who aren't that way, I want them to be out of my life immediately. So, I think when you're looking for partners, that would be a big thing for me. Integrity and just looking for the small cues that, that would indicate that person has integrity or they don't. Mm-hmm. Such as how they, their personal life, how they treat others, things like that. So I think passive versus active, I think that's, those are good qualities. I mean, on the passive side, obviously, as a passive investor, they're not as really involved in your day-to-day as much. I would just make sure that they are good partners in understanding that you are the general partner, that they are the limited member, and they're okay with that. And that, make sure you understand their goals, and make sure that you're fitting their goals with your project. So if they're a cash flow investor, like that ground up development deal we're doing is probably not a good idea because you're going to drive them crazy with no cash flow for 4 or 5 years. Where if they're a cash flow investor and, cash flows from day one, great, great fit for you. So
that's great. I think you're speaking to the. It's actually a really interesting way that you answer the question, because general partners need to be thinking, very deeply about who is exactly investing in their deal. Because I know that so many of us get, so caught up in, hey, well, we've got to raise the money. They want to invest. They said they want to be in real estate, and really the answer of real estate is not the same across all the different vehicles that are out there. So I just thought there was a lot of wisdom in that. So I really appreciate that. And then the other question of, hey, well, what is it that you want out of life? And really the open-ended just concept of thinking through that question, and maybe even building a longer term relationship surrounded around that type of question will help you build the appropriate partnerships and the appropriate team. And so that was great. So Ryan, talk to me about, yourself and your own growth as an individual. What would you say that you would point to right now that you're growing and getting better at kind of on a consistent basis, 1% each day?
1% each day, habits are getting extremely better. So, I think, your motivation to get out there and do something is only just that. But when motivations, are turned into habits, then it becomes effortless. So I think just, consistent wake up times, consistent bedtimes, consistent, just scheduling time, something as simple as my wife and I just started date night on Wednesdays. We're 5 weeks in a row. Right. And it's like this past week, it was really, really hard because we had so many things going on. We were both busy. She works in the business with me. And I'm in the middle of 2 capital raises. We just bought and sold a property. The place is on fire with so much stuff to do, and it's date night. And so it's like, you know what? If it can't wait 2 hours, then we got bigger problems. Right. So let's go and let's have date night. Right. And I think just taking that time, it's just, it's, just a time out in the busy life and just to talk and really focus on, your relationship, I think is something that I've gotten probably 1% better at in the last recent time. And just everything else that surrounds that, I think, being an airline pilot, it's the excuse is that it's hard to make good habits because you're not good habits, but just consistency because, your schedule changes, right? You're flying the weekend or you're doing the red eye. Now you're doing the morning shift. Now you're doing the night shift. You're kind of all over the place. Right. So just, it's difficult. So just really focusing on just, turning in your motivations into habits is really important. So
I think a lot of people have that excuse that it's hard to build good habits in whatever it is that they do. It's like, well, I'm so busy, there's so many things coming at me. I don't have time to create good habits. I've just got to, I got to just run on this hamster wheel and take care of business. What would you say to those folks?
Yeah. I hear myself saying that all the time, and I've been changing lately, catching myself saying that. You're not too busy. Like you're really not. Nobody is too busy to take the time to do. Busy is almost a form of like laziness. Like, it is. It's I'm too. I can't focus on myself. I can't focus on my relationship. I can't focus on, better physical fitness, which is something I need to focus on. Something. There's just excuses. I'm too busy. I'm too busy. I'm too busy. I can't make that, or I can't do this. It's prioritization. And just getting a good balance, which really helps.
I don't know who said this, but they said busy is like, it is a form of laziness, and it's like indiscriminate action, right?
Yep. That's
so
right.
You've got to be thinking about, well, what am I taking action on? If you're just busy doing, well, are you really actually creating that outcome that you're looking for? Or are you just busy being busy? So, right. How are you discriminate with your action? How do you choose what to take action on and what to not take action on?
Well, I credit, the business and my business partner for putting people in roles. Like we have a CEO, we have a CIO, we have a director of ops, we have a director of finance, we have a director of acquisitions, we have a director of business intelligence. So, really we have a marketing person, an ops person, all the stuff is just kind of falling into their own roles. So my focus in the business is on the investor side. And I think just knowing that that's my focus, really helps me get into consistent habits. So kind of defining roles in your business is really, really helpful. I know that's, again, a basic concept, but then just kind of thinking about your whole life and how, if it's just work all the time, like you got it wrong. You got it. Nobody can just work all the time. I don't care who you are. You can't just work all the time. You've got to unplug here and there, and you've got to do things that, kind of take a break, So it's like, did I play video games as a kid? Like you asked earlier. Of course I did, but, just not 18 hours a day.
Right.
Right. Like you got to break it up. You got to have a little bit of fun here and there, and you got to take time to take time, make time to take time, and that will make your life a lot better.
This episode of Elevate is brought to you by CF Capital, a real estate investment firm formed by myself and my partner, Brian Flaherty, where we invest in multifamily real estate communities across the Southeast United States. If you'd like to learn more about our approach, our mission, our acquisition criteria, and how you can learn more about future opportunities, visit cfcapllc.com. Again, that's cfcapllc.com. Yeah, and it's like what you said earlier, if we can't wait 2 hours, and we've probably got bigger problems here, right? So you've got to build in time for the things that are important, and fun is important, and living life is important. It's not just all about just grinding your life away. I mean, the more fun you have, the more, you can succeed as a real estate investor or whatever it may be, because you're just a more dynamic human being. So that really resonates with me. So Ryan, I want to transition, into our rapid fire section. I know that this conversation is a ton of fun and it's flying by for me. But I wanted to discuss, really, this is called the Rare Air Questionnaire. And this is because we're continuing to push the limits. Elevate's always about pushing the limits beyond what we thought we could accomplish. And, we've scaled the mountaintop. We looked across, the valley there, and there's 10 more mountains, and we're going to scale all of those and guarantee there will be more, things to accomplish. But, creating a life without limits isn't easy, and many people give up along the way, but we will not. And so with that said, I'd love to know, we've talked about some books, but I'd be curious to know, what are two or three of the most impactful books that you've ever read?
I don't know if it's the most impactful, but I just finished Richest Man in Babylon. That was a good book.
It's a good one.
Yeah. And I just really liked the principles, like the operating principles of Babylon. I really liked that. That was kind of interesting. I think it was like 12. But the thing that really resonated with me is like just dry, arid, desert climate, no riches, no advantage, middle of nowhere, kind of a city that was just incredibly resourceful to get all the riches that anybody could ever want. And I think, that's, for me, that's like, when I look at, living in America or living in this world and, making, I just see people make so many excuses for themselves as to why they have to work really hard or why they don't have something they want. And it's like, no, you can make something out of anything. It doesn't matter your background, doesn't matter where you're coming from. You just have to use your brain and, and get educated. And now in today's world, everybody has an iPhone, from the poorest person on the planet to the richest. Everybody's got one in their hand, and every single one of them has a podcast app, and every single one of them has a free, library card app, Overdrive. You can connect that to your library. You could consume books all the time. You can educate yourself, which is how I learned real estate. It was listening to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of free, podcasts. I didn't go to a $10.99 weekend course with a $40,000, coaching program. No offense to anybody who does that, but it's, you don't need all that crap. You just need to just go on the internet and look at what you want. And I think that, that book really like struck home, because I love that concept. Mm-hmm. We talked about cash flow quadrant, everybody talks about rich dad, poor dad, but it really is a mindset changer. It's not going to tell you how to do something, but it's just going to put you in the right frame of mind. So I really enjoy the Real Estate Guys radio podcast.
Me too.
Yeah. So it's, I know that's not a book. You asked for a book, but I do I do like listening to them because it's a good mindset to learn how to raise money. And I just like listening to Russell Gray and Robert Helms. I think they have a good, kind of good back and forth. So
Yeah, they're smart guys, and I always can learn so much. But to your point, I mean, the world, there's so many resources out there, and it's just a matter of how committed are you? How much do you really want it? Because it's all there waiting for you. How are you spending your time? Obviously, you want to have some fun. You want to schedule time to be fun and to relax and enjoy. But also, how are you developing yourself? Are you going to get the content? Are you putting it in action? And so that's a great reminder for all of us. So Ryan, how do you elevate yourself on a daily basis? Would you say is the number one reason or number one way that you elevate your life on a daily basis?
Oh, that's a great question. Coffee? Lots of coffee?
I can relate to that for sure. I love that.
It's funny. I actually, to help me wake up, I set my timer on my coffee pot. So it's just smell comes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So it's a little tip to help you get out of bed in the morning.
I love it. Hey, coffee is a culture, man. It's all about discussions. It's about, learning something, but it's definitely about practically let's wake up here.
And I live in Seattle, so it's the best place for it. So
absolutely. That or Italy. I don't know, man. I was in Italy.
Well, we got this place called Starbucks. It's pretty good.
I've never heard of it. Never heard of that place. That's amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
So how do you best elevate others around you on a daily basis?
I try to simplify things as much as possible. I think people want to make this real estate thing so complicated, and I like to just dumb it down and make it really simple. And I know that's, I don't know if that's a great answer or not, but I think people appreciate what I show them because I try to make it really simple. I also am very open-minded to what people have when they make suggestions for me. And I think that's really helpful. And then the last thing is communication. We're really, really good communicators. And I just think that, knowing how to communicate, the frequency, the content, what to say, I think is, it helps people. I had a bad passive investing experience with another operator. So one of the things that we do at Spartan is we communicate monthly on all our projects and then quarterly on all of our financials on pro forma versus actual so they can see how we're doing. I mean, saying something's 98% occupied isn't really all that helpful. If it was supposed to be 100%, well, how did you know that? Well, you can't keep track, right? So we show pro forma versus actual. I think people really like that. So I just think giving somebody a better experience when they invest, really elevates them to want to continue doing this. And I think as capital raisers, we have to be good stewards of our investor capital so that, we continue to take money from Wall Street and get it onto Main Street investments, So
that's awesome, man. So there's 3 great takeaways there. It's, keep things simple. It doesn't have to be overcomplicated. And, I think some people want to show that they're, these big, bad, wise, intelligent people by things overcomplicated. So it's a great takeaway to keep it simple and keep your communication simple, which is, number 3. But before we get there, it's remain open-minded to the fact that, you're working with someone that may have a different outcome than yourself, in addition to so many different things. But then also, of course, communicate effectively and be transparent with what you do, whether you're a capital raiser or you're just a good human being trying to do the right thing. So I love that, man. And Ryan, man, this has been so much fun. Do you have any parting thoughts or words of wisdom that you'd share with Elevate Nation?
No, just, like I said earlier with the books and the podcast, I think it's just a great way to, don't feel like you got to go out there and drop thousands and thousands of dollars on the next thing, right? It's a lot of stuff's out there for free. I mean, the stupidest thing, my daughter and I, she's 3 and she loves to draw. Right. She wants to draw. And I'm terrible. I don't know how to draw anything, but YouTube knows how to, So it's like, what do you want to draw? I want to draw a dinosaur. It's like, okay, YouTube, how to draw a dinosaur. And then there we are. We're drawing a dinosaur together. Like, you can learn whatever you want at your fingertips. I think one of the reasons why we're probably going to go through the biggest transformation of wealth in our history is because of the information that's at our fingertips. And you're just lazy if you don't use it, frankly. I mean,
Absolutely.
use it. It's right there. There's nothing in this world that you shouldn't know how to do because it's all on the internet. It's all right there. It's all at your fingertips, and just use the resources that you have. I think I read somewhere, somebody said, imagine going back 120 years and showing them the iPhone and being like, look at this thing. It has everything in the world on it that you could ever want right here on this little phone. And then the person goes, well, what would you do with it? Or what do you guys do with it? Well, I post pictures of my food.
It's depressing. Oh my God.
And they're like, wow, you could know anything about the universe and you use it to post pictures of your food. And if you think about it, it's like, wow, that's kind of a funny way of looking at it. It's like use the resources that you have available to you. And I'm not the best at it. I'm getting better at it. I try my best. But that'd be my parting thoughts.
Love that, man. That's huge. And it's, you don't want to just be a consumer. You want to be a producer, right? So use that information, put it into action, and very, very well said, Ryan. This has been a ton of fun, man. Really appreciate you taking time with us today. Yeah,
likewise. Thanks, Tyler. Yeah.
Absolutely. So how can Elevate Nation stay engaged with you and following you along your path?
Our website's Spartan-investors.com. My email is ryan@spartan-investors.com. We post every day on Facebook. We usually do some inspirational stuff. We do some property level stuff. So follow us on Facebook, Spartan Investment Group. We also have a YouTube channel. We post all of our property tours. We do monthly webinars. If you just YouTube Spartan Investment Group, we're all on there. And, we're on LinkedIn and Instagram and all the rest. So, I don't think we're on TikTok, but
Yeah, I haven't gotten into TikTok yet. Maybe that's for the other generation that's coming up behind us. Maybe
exactly
better than we do. Who knows? That's awesome. Well, when you get a TikTok channel, let us know. We will be sure to share that with everyone. But man, this has been so much fun. And anybody who listens to Elevate always knows that I encourage repetition. You got to re-listen to the show, take some notes, and put it into action. Use this information. Take massive action. Go ahead and find somebody else to hold you accountable. Who can you systematize and say, hey, look, what are you grateful for? And what are things that you've learned from, information that you've been absorbing through podcasts, through books, through the Internet of Things, or whatever it may be. And if you want to engage further with Ryan and his company, please do that. We're going to put a link in the show notes of how you can actually set up a call with Ryan to learn more about passive investing. And all that good stuff here in the show notes of the show. But with that said, Ryan, thank you again, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Tyler.
Absolutely. Elevate Nation, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Elevate. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to elevate your results by taking immediate action on what you learned. For more, visit elevatepod.com.